Today is April 3rd, 2016, and it's Sunday. I am your host, Angela Champ, and welcome to Side Streets and Intersections here on IntellectualRadio.com. I am curious, and I'd like to have the input of those regarding the subject matter, political correctness. Now, the Cambridge Academic Content Dictionary defines politically correct as language, body movement, or anything that would be suggestive that offends a particular group or person. Now, I will agree that you get more with honey than you do with vinegar, but at what point is it okay to tell the truth? I mean, being politically correct to me, I've learned to pretend to be something I'm not, even saying things that I don't find quite funny, laughing at jokes, let's say about a particular person or a particular group. But I gotta ponder on this question. When is it okay to tell the truth? Huh. See, as a child, I was often disciplined for not telling the truth. And when we are children, we are quite honest before our lives become corrupted with the ills of the current world in which we reside. And I didn't understand why telling the truth had now become a bad thing. Who decides who's right or wrong? I'll tell you who decides. Those that we perceive that have power. However, as with every good rule, there are exceptions. Political correctness is externally driven, while being inclusive is internally driven. See, when people do something they consider to be politically correct by using certain terms, acting in certain mannerisms, herein lies the internal conflict with self. They are doing it because they have been told, even if they don't believe that themselves. Now, on the other hand, when people do things that they think to be inclusive, whether it is being politically correct, then there isn't that conflict because they're doing it because it is the core of who they are. It's called their values. But I still want to pose this question to y'all. When is it okay to tell the truth? Now, let me put this disclaimer out. I would never advise anyone on or anything on something not to be mindful of the bridges that they've crossed, because you just might find out that the planks that held you up have now become weakened. I am saying, however, people spend too much time trying to fit in, only to lose their identity. Does the pressure or fear of offending another aids in suppressing our truths as people of African American descent? And if so, when is it okay to tell the truth? Is there honor in political correctness? Well, I want you guys to ponder on that. Being politically correct. So on this day, in this time and in this hour, as you think about the things that I have said, ask yourself, are you inclusive or are you being politically correct? So I'll take any calls, any questions, because it's something that we just have to think about. So if you have any questions, any concerns with this subject matter, please call 708-223-8953 here on IntellectualRadio.com. I think we're going to have a lot of fun with this subject. Now, don't y'all call at once now. So, are you being politically correct? What side streets have you walked down that have caused you now to come to that intersection in your life? Causes you to ask those questions. Who are you? Where are you going? And where have you been? Or do you continue to be politically correct? Well, so what? Is it okay? Any questions? Well, sometimes I think about even the current election that's going on. Now, I'm not going to say that I agree with anything that Donald Trump is saying. But the one thing I learned about not being politically correct is that now you know. It's good to know what people are thinking about you, because then with that information, you can now make informed decisions about where you're going and what you're doing and how you're going to do it. Hmm. Political correct. I've often told that, don't do that. Don't say that. But they could never ask the question or answer the question, why? Why shouldn't I be doing that? Hmm. Politically correct. Wow. Well, I think we're going to go to break, and we'll be back with the subject matter. Are you politically correct? Well, welcome back to Side Streets and Intersections here on IntellectualRadio.com. And if you have any questions during this show, please do not hesitate to call 708-223-8953. Getting back to why I named this show Side Streets and Intersections. Well, what I've learned in life is that side streets represent your life. It is where you learn the lessons. It is where things happen to you. We call experience. Now, the intersection is where sometimes calamity takes place. And so you have all these twos from your side streets that you are now able to make applicable to your life. Hence the name Side Streets and Intersections. So let's get back to the subject matter again on being politically correct. Have you ever wondered if you should approach someone a certain way? Ever hoped others would approach you? But you weren't too sure how you should approach them? Or they weren't too sure as to how they should approach you? Well, that's what we call being politically correct. It's making those decisions that won't cause anyone to be offended. But I just have to ask this question again. At what point do we tell the truth? I mean, we talk about integrity, honesty, but I've come to learn in these 45 years of existence that we live in a world that seems to be based on corruption. And for those that are willing to tell the truth, they are often ostracized, jailed, imprisoned, and labeled crazy. You know, interesting, before I came on air, I was watching Channel 11 and they were talking about how Martin Luther King came because he wanted to do things for the city of Chicago back in the early Daley days. And how Richard Daley's son, or dad, correct me, would always find a way to say that the people or the African Americans here in the city of Chicago, they were okay. See, that's a form of political correctness because, in fact, they weren't okay. And those people, they were afraid to reach out and really speak on the subject matter because, well, they were concerned with what might happen to them. And so this subject just continues to boggle my brain in that when is it okay to tell the truth? I mean, I find that I was at work today and you often hear the term keep it 100. But when I tell the truth, people are offended. So how can I keep it 100? I'm supposed to be politically correct. So to that, they say that if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all. But sometimes those things must be said and should be said. See, and I understand that most people can't deal with direct, bold, brazen honesty because it causes us to internalize the things that we have done in the course of our life. It causes us to do a lot of self-reflecting. And most of us are not willing to deal with our true self. We are even being politically correct with ourselves. This is why we continue to lose ourselves and our identity. So if you're sitting in your living room, you're sitting in the office, you're driving in your car, even if you are having a conversation with your loved one, start to evoke those thoughts that will provoke an action. Are you being politically correct? Or are you being inclusive? You know, it's on any given day in the city of Chicago, you can go to any restaurant, any Starbucks, and find that people are having these conversations. Everybody wants to be somebody. And oftentimes I will go and just people watch. You know, you learn a lot about people watching their behavior and their mannerisms. And most of them are trying to be someone they're not. Now, are you politically correct? Are you and do you know yourself? Because I found out to know thyself, you'll understand that it's okay to be politically correct, but it's also okay to tell the truth. You know, life teaches us a lot of things. And we are often told, and it's ingrained and inculcated into our brains, that you must be honest. Be honest. Tell the truth. Don't lie. And then you find out when you get these jobs, even some of these religious organizations, you find yourself lying. So are you being politically correct or are you being inclusive? Now, I want you to ponder on that. I'm going to take a break and I'm going to come back. Because is it ever okay to lie? back to Side Streets and Intersections here on IntellectualRadio.com. If you have any, again, I am Angela Champ, your host. Please call at 708-223-8953. So let's get back. Is it ever okay to lie? Is it ever okay to lie? Now, some people say it is okay to lie because sometimes you just don't want to tell the truth. For example, if I have on a dress that doesn't look good on me, please tell me the truth. Don't be politically correct. Tell the truth. If I say something that is incorrect, don't offer this downplayed, this watered down version of how I should have said it. Just be honest with me. Because I'm finding that it's hard to meet honest people. Everybody wants to be politically correct. Everybody wants to be inclusive. But can you truly be inclusive without being honest? Or are you just an avatar? Are you doing what everybody else does? Now, let's think about this. Some people would say, if you don't have anything nice to say, then don't say anything at all. And I've found that is also sometimes very appropriate. But once again, when is it okay to tell the truth? Who's tired out there of lies that are projected, the propaganda, the ignorance that is displayed via social medias, via newspapers? Could the truth be too much? Well, I'd rather know the truth than to think I know the truth. I've often got in trouble at work for not being politically correct. Oh, I shouldn't say that. Oh, you shouldn't say this. But you know what I've come to learn? They don't care about saying it to you. So let me get this right. You want me to allow you to disrespect me. But when it comes to me standing on what I believe in, I need to be politically correct. Isn't that a contradiction? Oh, I'm sorry. Pardon me. I was just being inclusive. Well, America, the city of Chicago, we have a lot to learn. I think that at some point in your heart of hearts, you have to ask yourself, am I doing this because this is who I am? Are my beliefs, are my actions, are my ideologies being passed down from someone else, and now I've taken on their way of thinking? Or have I done enough research on my own to be politically correct and to also be inclusive? We have a lot to learn, people. And so I believe that each day we get up, we have all the tools that we need. We don't have to ask for anything else. Everything else is up to you. Let me ask the question again. Does the pressure or fear of offending another aids in suppressing our truths as people of African American descent? And if so, when is it okay to tell the truth? Is there honor in political correctness? Is there honor in political correctness? Well, what I've learned is that Sometimes I don't want to be politically correct. And sometimes it's good not to be politically correct. I mean, who determines and who decides what's right and what's wrong? It's always those with perceived power that determine who's right and who's wrong. And surprisingly enough, well, it's no surprise, those are the ones that's lying. Oh, I'm sorry. They were just being politically correct. I'm sorry. Well, I'm going to come back and I want you to ponder on the things that I've said because I know I've said a lot in a short amount of time. This is Angela Champ, your host for Side Streets and Intersections here on IntellectualRadio.com. Welcome back to Side Streets and Intersections here on IntellectualRadio.com. Any questions or concerns, please call 708-223-8953. So while we were at break, I was thinking, how many people have been ostracized or blackballed for not being politically correct? Did they tell you to be nice, not speak the truth, tell a lie? Only to find out that because you had to live a certain way. It caused you to drink. It caused you to smoke. It caused you to do drugs because you were fighting with who you really are. I just don't understand. Now, this is an emotional subject for me because people have died. People have lost their livelihood. I think about Mandela because he chose not to be politically correct. He was imprisoned. How do you lock up a man for years and don't even offer a real apology? Are we being politically correct? Or are we being inclusive? Well, I'm about to wrap up. But before I go, I am your host, Angela Chimp, for Side Streets and Intersections, here on IntellectualRadio.com. And until we meet again, before you do anything, are you being politically correct? But even in our political correctness, I believe that we must all aspire to inspire before we expire. That is my show.